You are listening to KLRN Radio, where liberty and reason still reign.
Is debt beating you down? You need discipline. You need the Debt Ninja. If you've been caught in a financial trap and need to be set free, then you need the Debt Ninja. Want to stop those harassing collection calls, start saving thousands in interest and fees, and get out of debt fast? Then you need to call the Debt Ninja. The Debt Ninja will find the best companies across the country that will help you consolidate all your bills into one easy payment, reduce your payments by 30 to 50%, and get you out of debt fast. If you have unsecured debt of $10,000 or more, such as credit cards, loans, or medical bills, call the Debt Ninja for a free 15-minute consultation.
Call 800-826-1246. 800-826-1246. That's 800-826-1246. Call today.
The Debt Ninja.
Individuals and businesses with tax problems, listen carefully. Do you feel like you're losing control over your finances? If you owe over $10,000 in back taxes or have unfiled tax returns, we can help you take back control. The IRS is the largest and most aggressive collection agency in the world, and they can seize your bank account, garnish your paycheck, close your business, and file criminal charges. Take control of your tax problems now by calling the experts at Tax Mediation Services and take advantage of the Fresh Start program and new laws that may allow us to negotiate a settlement for the lowest amount possible. Our team of tax attorneys and enrolled agents can stop collections and get you protected so you can take control of your financial future. Tax Mediation Services is accredited by the Better Business Bureau. Call now for a free case review and a price protection guaranteed quote.
Call Tax Mediation Services now at 800-610-9050. That's 800-610-9050. 800-610-9050.
All writers are prone to becoming so attached to our characters and stories that we struggle to see why a passage may not be working. It takes another set of eyes to help us nurture our writing to full maturity. At Black Wolf Editorial Services, we strive to enable writers to develop and grow, shaping stories into masterpieces that can stand the test of time. Editing services are provided for all genres and all age categories. Services range from critiques of the short story through to the line edits of the full-length novel and copy editing for those preparing for publication. We also offer assistance on generating a writer's bio for your website, as well as help with those book blurbs and promotional material. We won't abandon you to the masses. We want to celebrate with you in your successes. Black Wolf Editorial Services, nurturing your writing into maturity. For a full list of services and prices, visit us at blackwolfeditorial.com.
This is Slickery Trigger for Rebel Road Tactical. With proper care and feeding, your pistol will be ready when you need it. There to save your life. Shouldn't your gear be that good? Whether you need a holster for comfortable everyday carry or a tough-as-nails holster for your next training course, Rebel Road Tactical has what you need. Check us out on the web at rebelroadtactical.com.
You're listening to the Spark Radio Network, internet radio like you've never heard before. Innovation, creativity, and imagination are all said to begin with a spark. So fasten your seatbelt and take the ride of your life and listen for the spark.
You are listening to KLRN Radio, where liberty and reason still reign.
My name is Jessie. I'm a United States Special Forces widow. This gives me a unique perspective on the world around us. If you're willing to listen, I'll tell you how I see it, and I won't pull any punches. This is my POV, which stands for Point of View.
All right, this is Jessie. I am so happy to be back with you guys, and I hope I sound better.
I've got the final, or at least what I hope are the final upgrades, at least for now, to my setup in my studio. Done. Yay! You have no idea. I've been trying to upgrade things for your benefit. I know that may not sound like much, and you may not understand it, but it means I sound better when I'm talking to you guys. You no longer hear every time I touch my keyboard if I'm pulling something up. You no longer have to hear all that. You may hear a little bit of it because, well, it is still background noise, but it's going to be a lot better for you. All right. Now, just a reminder, mark your calendars, December 17th, Geek Fest on KLRN Radio. Oh yeah, Major Geek Fest. Star Wars, Star Trek, Stargate 2. Yes, they'll all be part of a live special I'm producing, but Doc, aka Dr. Judy L. Moore, will be the lead host for that day. I know Rick Robinson has already said he's gonna join us. Dave Brewer may even stop by. He doesn't get on the air, so it has to be big if he's gonna actually get on the air with us. Alright, now, if you were listening a couple minutes ago, I have no idea what happened. My soundboard just went, I'm done. I'm out of here. See ya. So, I apologize for that one. Gotta roll with the punches. What can I say? But I always do my best to bring you guys a show. I even came on during the debate. Yes, I did a live show competing with the debate. I know, a little bit crazy, but everything's not about U.S. politics, folks. There's a lot of other stuff going on in the world, and I feel it's important to bring you those stories you may not otherwise hear. Alright, so getting right down to, stack of show prep. Alright, I've heard some interesting rumors in the past couple of days, and I wanted to try and find a good source on them before I brought it to you. That's why you haven't heard me mention it up until now. Alright, Abu Bakr al-Baghdadi. Yes, self-proclaimed caliphate, leader of ISIL, Daesh. I usually like to call him Daesh. He may be trapped in Mosul. Oh yeah. Deputy Prime Minister of Iraq, Hosher Zebre, said on Wednesday that al-Baghdadi had not left Mosul, disregarding the Iraqi forces advancing on his de facto capital. Now, for those of you who go, wait, isn't Raqqa the capital? Okay, I was discussing this earlier when I was doing a record for Saturday. Slow down. Hey, everybody's got to have a day off, and that's my way of taking one. Justin and I were saying, Justin Kinney, one of my regular guests on Saturday Slowdown, and I were saying that Raqqa, Syria, is the Syrian capital, and Mosul is either the religious or cultural or Iraqi capital. Zebre's statements corresponds with intelligence reports that say al-Baghdadi was still in Mosul alongside top ISIS commander Fauzi Ali. Daesh terrorists are under heavy pressure amid the continuous process by the Iraqi forces, Zibri said. He added that Allied forces have continued to move towards Mosul city since the start of the operation. The president of al-Baghdadi in Mosul is reportedly meant to raise the morale of his militants in the face of overwhelming force. Though al-Baghdadi has apparently not left Mosul, that option remains open to him. I have not found any audio on this, but you know, if he's actually there, can I just say one thing? I value Target. No joke. I value Target. That guy has a bullseye painted on him. And I think knowing that, U.S. forces that I know are only going to step up the fight. Alright, I'm working on some audio for you guys. Hey, I finished my upgrades 40 minutes before showtime. Can't get everything done at the same time as much as I'd love to. So, sometimes I'm just a little bit behind the 8 ball. But, you gotta admit that if Baghdadi is there, there's going to be a move to take him out. Oh yeah. Sorry about the computer noise, folks. It's just me prepping the audio files. A Peshmerga officer said it could take weeks to besiege Iraq's second largest city, even after a cordon has been established. Daesh militants could attempt to break out using their tunnel networks. So we may not have him as cornered as I'd like to think. Under heavy blows by Peshmerga forces and the Iraqi army, supported by the coalition's airstrikes, Daesh won't be able to hold out for long in Mosul, according to media activist Sipan Salah. Whether al-Baghdadi is there or not, it won't matter much. Once the anti-Daesh forces enter the city, a large surge of dissidents are expected to hit the group's back ranks. I thought that was an amazing story. And it wasn't the only one I found on this. You know me, I like to have at least 2 sources before I bring something to you. It was claimed last night Abu Bakr al-Baghdadi is trapped in the besieged city of Mosul. He is believed to be holed up with ISIS bomb maker Fauzi Ali Nomei as the fanatics prepare for a bloody last stand against Iraqi and Kurdish forces. And, for the record, this is where he declared his caliphate from. It was a mosque in Mosul. So that's why Mosul is of so much importance. Some ISIS commanders have begun fleeing Mosul ahead of the advance, with some crashing their trucks in their hurry to get away. Senior Kurdish official Hoshar Zebri said his forces had solid intelligence that al-Baghdadi, the world's second most wanted man, had a $10 million bounty on his head, was still in Mosul. His presence means the 3,000 remaining diehards will fight with even greater ferocity to defend the last Daesh stronghold in Iraq. There are fears. Bomb maker Nomei's henchmen have planned a network of booby-trap bombs throughout the stricken city, home to around 1.5 million people. Yes, you must remember there are still innocent people trapped within Mosul. And this could be a huge, humanitarian crisis. Tens of thousands of Iraqi and Kurdish Peshmerga warriors launched a long-awaited assault to retake Mosul this week, more than 2 years after it fell to marauding Daesh jihadis who stormed across from Syria in 2014. It was in a mosque in Mosul that al-Baghdadi declared his caliphate, and the city has huge significance in the battle to defeat the evil death cult. The fight for the city has now reached its third day, with Daesh fighters believed to be preparing for the bloody street-to-street warfare. The terror group are said to be growing more desperate, even using civilians as human shields when Kurdish troops launched the first skirmishes in villages outside the city. Commanders said men, women, and children were forced into the line of fire as Daesh cowards disappeared down rat holes in the ground. Disturbing reports from inside Mosul suggest more than 100 terrified families were forced to move into buildings seen as likely targets for U.S. airstrikes. The International Organization for Migration said it was preparing gas masks in case of chemical attack by jihadis. Alright. Now, that's not, unfortunately, the only battle going on. I wish it was. But Daesh, as I prefer to refer to them, couldn't leave well enough alone, could they? No, of course not. I've got a report here that says that al-Baghdadi was wounded last month. And that he was being treated in Mosul by ISIL. His condition is deteriorating, and who knows? They've claimed his death. They've claimed his injury. They've claimed everything before. Now, Daesh couldn't leave well enough alone. A sneak attack on the Kurdish capital of Kirkuk Friday, believed to have been launched by a sleeper cell, is stoking fears that more jihadis are lying in wait in a vast sea of refugees. Insert editorial comment here. And they want to bring those refugees here. Thanks. This show host will pass. I don't want a refugee who can't be properly vetted living down the road from me. I'm sorry. In the attack, jihadis who'd been living among the 70,000 refugees in camps surrounding the oil-rich city packed children into 6 cars, drove through a checkpoint into Kirkuk. Once inside, they rallied an estimated 100 refugee Confederates inside the city and opened fire on Kurdish citizens and security forces. At least 30 people were killed, including 10 suspected Daesh fighters who detonated suicide belts as the security forces closed in. Trucks lined up at a checkpoint. Okay, we've been facing this kind of disease for 4 years now. We know how to respond, said a senior advisor to Lahore Talabani, head of intelligence and counterintelligence for Kurdistan. And yes, that part of the world is actually often referred to as Kurdistan. Kurdish forces keep watch atop buildings following the sleeper cells in a cell attack. They are attempting to take out anything that's suspiciously moving around the city. Look, and now, Kirkuk, for those of you who don't have a map of Iraq handy, is about 100 miles southeast of Mosul. It's the heart of semi-autonomous Kurdish territory. And who's right there fighting in Mosul? The Kurds. So I think this is Daesh's way of taking it to the Kurds. What can I say? Alright, I do have one audio clip I've pulled up for you. Let's take a listen to that.
Fox News alert, which is sad and awful news to report today. The first American killed in the operation to retake Mosul. This as ISIS strikes back, attacking targets in the city of Kirkuk, killing at least 11 people. John Huddy is live in our Mideast Bureau. And is the attack in Kirkuk a diversionary tactic at this point with regard to the larger offensive?
Well, it certainly seems that case, Martha. It's a tactic that ISIS has used before. In particular, to give you an example, the battle to retake Ramadi. You may remember ISIS launched suicide attacks in and around Baghdad, again, as a diversionary tactic to try to get resources to that location. So it appears this latest attack in Kirkuk may be the same thing. Here's what we know. ISIS militants stormed a power plant this morning there. Kirkuk is south of Mosul, armed with explosives. They took at least 13 people hostage. They specifically asked to see several Iranian workers who were immediately killed, according to reports, before the attackers apparently blew themselves up, killing all of the other hostages as well. Keep in mind, Iran has been involved, or at least working with Iraq's military and government in the fight against ISIS in Iraq, so that could be why those Iranian workers were targeted. ISIS fighters also stormed a government compound in Kirkuk. So far, at least 18 people we're hearing possibly have been killed, maybe as many as a dozen ISIS militants. Though, Martha, the fighting, as we understand, continues there. It's very fluid, so those numbers could go up, and a state of emergency has been declared in the city as Friday prayers have also been canceled, Martha.
All right. Thank you very much, John.
All right, and I have the DoD press release about the casualty. The Department of Defense announced today the death of a sailor who was supporting Operation Inherent Resolve. Chief Petty Officer Jason C. Finnan, 34, of Anaheim, California, died October 20th in northern Iraq of wounds sustained in an improvised explosive device blast. He was assigned to Explosive Ordnance Disposal Mobile Unit 3. That meant this guy, and I'm speculating here, I'm going to say he may have been trying to disarm an IED. The story doesn't say, the press release doesn't say, but this man died a hero, at least in my book. This was a man who gave his life in defense of the defenseless. The women, the children, the innocent people of the area who cannot defend themselves. He died trying to protect them. And for that, Jason Finian, Chief Petty Officer Jason C. Finian, I salute you. Fair winds and following seas, sailor. Hey, you gotta know I get choked up every time I have to read one of those. And I hope that's the last of them for some time. Alright, I believe I've got this other audio prepped. Give me a couple seconds. And the UN is warning of ISIS using human shields. Now, what other terrorist group do we know that does that? Oh yeah, let's see. Hamas? Yeah. They're known for it. The United Nations said on Friday it's gravely worried that ISIS has taken 550 families from villages around Mosul, Iraq's second largest city and is using them as human shields as Iraqi and Kurdish forces battle the terror group for control of the city. Alright, it's going to take me a minute to get that audio pulled up for you, so just bear with me. Like I said, I had a lot to do today, which included trying to get these upgrades done for your benefit. Alright, 200 families from the Somalia village and 350 families from Najifa were forced out Monday and taken to Mosul, in what appears to be an apparent policy by ISIS to prevent civilians from escaping. Because here's the truth in this matter, and as ugly as it is, it's a fact. They think that we won't attack. There are civilians. Well, I would like to say we can never drop a bomb on a civilian. I hate to say it, war doesn't wait to get them all out. I would love to be able to have a civilian-free war. If somebody can give me a potion that will magically extricate all those civilians, I will happily see about what I can do to get it there. Alright. Let's get this pulled up for you. Because I don't want to see people used as human shields any more than you do. Alright, let's take a listen.
Gunfire erupted on the streets of the Iraqi city of Kirkuk after ISIS militants launched a surprise attack. Video captured the terrorists entering at night. Ongoing clashes reported. ISIS's sudden attack into Kirkuk, some 100 miles southeast of Mosul, is seen by U.S. military officials as an ISIS attempt to divert Iraqi forces from the larger fight to retake Mosul. Kirkuk, still a city of strategic significance because of its large oil reserves.
They are a very resilient and challenging foe. They're very adaptable, very creative, cunning.
The first U.S. service member to be killed in the Mosul operation died after his vehicle hit an IED. Up to 200 U.S. troops are in and around Mosul, advising Iraqi and Kurdish forces. They are confronting initial rings of bombs and booby traps outside the city. ISIS is watching new video of clashes. Its weapons defenses are even greater inside Mosul. U.S. officials say the top U.S. commander telling the BBC ISIS must be stopped.
They saw people's heads off on TV. They drown people and video it. They burn people alive in cages. They crucify people. And they drive over people on the street with bulldozers. Are they using human shields in there? Yeah, they're probably using human shields in there.
The U.S. believes some ISIS leaders have already escaped Mosul. Remaining are about 3,000 to 4,000 fighters. About 1,000 are hardcore foreign fighters in a city of 1 million. The U.S. is trying to get a better fix on the strength of the dissident movement inside the city and whether those foreign fighters inside Mosul will fight to the death.
And U.S. officials believe ISIS is already making plans for what comes next, that they will plan to become an insurgency, meld back into the civilian population, and stage attacks from there.
All right, as you heard, I agree. ISIS is using human shields. I mean, come on, they have a total disregard for life. They're an apocalyptic death cult. They believe that they can start the end times whenever it's right for them. Alright, my oh my, how the time flies. We do have to take that commercial break, but just as a reminder, I am hanging out in the chat room over on KLRNRadio.com.
and it's just KLRNRadio.com/chat. Come join me. I'd love to have a few friends visit me in the chat room. And on that note, we gotta go pay them bills.
The following message contains a special offer for listeners of this station. Are you a man over 40? Are you constantly looking for the nearest bathroom? Do you wake up multiple times a night to use the bathroom? Right now, Perfect Prostate is sending out free bottles of their groundbreaking new formula to listeners of this station. Perfect Prostate formula was developed by medical doctor Mitchell Fleischer, and its ingredients have been clinically studied to reduce your frequent nighttime bathroom visits and promote healthy urine flow. Right now, preferred customers get their first bottle of Perfect Prostate absolutely free. There's nothing to lose. Perfect Prostate is guaranteed to reduce that constant urge to use the bathroom, especially at night, and promote healthy urine flow. Don't wait. Call now for your free bottle. Just pay shipping and processing. Dial 1-800-675-0251. That's 1-800-675-0251. Supplies are limited. One free bottle per household. Call now. Dial 1-800-675-0251. That's 1-800-675-0251.
Individuals and businesses with tax problems, listen carefully. Do you feel like you're losing control over your finances? If you owe over $10,000 in back taxes or have unfiled tax returns, we can help you take back control. The IRS is the largest and most aggressive collection agency in the world, and they can seize your bank account, garnish your paycheck, close your business, and file criminal charges. Take control of your tax problems now by calling the experts at Tax Mediation Services and take advantage of the Fresh Start program and new laws that may allow us to negotiate a settlement for the lowest amount possible. Our team of tax attorneys and enrolled agents can stop collections and get you protected so you can take control of your financial future. Tax Mediation Services is accredited by the Better Business Bureau. Call now for a free case review and a price protection guaranteed quote.
Call Tax Mediation Services now at 800-610-9050. That's 800-610-9050. 800-610-9050.
All writers are prone to becoming so attached to our characters and stories that we struggle to see why a passage may not be working. It takes another set of eyes to help us nurture our writing to full maturity. At Black Wolf Editorial Services, we strive to enable writers to develop and grow, shaping stories into masterpieces that can stand the test of time. Editing services are provided for all genres and all age categories. Services range from critiques of the short story through to the line edits of the full-length novel and copy editing for those preparing for publication. We also offer assistance on generating a writer's bio for your website, as well as help with those book blurbs and promotional material. We won't abandon you to the masses. We want to celebrate with you in your successes. Black Wolf Editorial Services, nurturing your writing into maturity. For a full list of services and prices, visit us at blackwolfeditorial.com.
KLRN Radio has advertising rates available. We have rates to fit almost any budget. Contact us at advertising@klrnradio.com.
This is Slickery Trigger for Rebel Road Tactical. With proper care and feeding, your pistol will be ready when you need it. There to save your life. Shouldn't your gear be that good? Whether you need a holster for comfortable everyday carry or a tough-as-nails holster for your next training course, Rebel Road Tactical has what you need. Check us out on the web at rebelroadtactical.com.
You are listening to KLRN Radio, where liberty and reason still reign.
Totally
All right. Thank y'all for hanging out with me, waiting through that commercial break. All right. I don't cover U.S. politics, but I do keep an eye on the Secretary of State because he has more to do with foreign politics. So, did U.S. Secretary of State Friday, he described North Korea's government as illegitimate and illegal. Alright, I've got a little excerpt from the press conference today where the reporters were discussing it with John Kirby. Let's take a listen.
Right. Let's start with some comments the Secretary made this morning, which have attracted some interest. Unusually brought up during a meeting with the Kuwaiti foreign minister, but they're about North Korea. And I wanted to know what the Secretary meant when he spoke of the illegal and illegitimate government of North Korea. Is this some kind of hint or signal that the U.S. position towards North Korea is getting harder, sharper?
I think our position on North Korea has been sufficiently tough for a long, long time. I don't think I would read into what he said as signaling any kind of a change. We've been pretty clear and pretty specific about the unlawful activities of the regime on many different levels. So I wouldn't read more into it than that, but also I wouldn't read less into it either. I mean, we have obviously been very concerned about regime provocative activities and the destabilizing influence that they have on the peninsula.
Well, but that's not quite what he said. He didn't say the acts, the illegal and illegitimate acts of the North Korean government. He said the illegal and illegitimate government of North Korea. Does the U.S. believe that the government of North Korea is illegal?
Doesn't one become illegal by your acts? I mean, I don't think. I think you're reading way too much into this, Matt. I mean, I think by any measure, just look at what this regime is doing: starving their own people, trying to develop nuclear weapons capabilities, threatening to use weapons of mass destruction on the peninsula. I mean, we could go on and on and on. I think he was simply stating the obvious, and I wouldn't read more into it than that.
So are you saying that he was referring to the actions of the North Korean government?
The actions of the North Korean regime are what give the international community such concern, and he was speaking to the fact that those actions, the provocative behavior that the regime continues to display are absolutely in violations of violations of international law.
Okay, but when you refer to a government as an illegal government, that could suggest some kind of regime change policy.
Nothing's changed about our policy with respect to what we want to see on the peninsula, which is complete, verifiable denuclearization and a return to the six-party talk process.
All right. As you can hear, John Kirby was pulling out the spin machine. That was a beautiful example of political spin. Now, granted, Kerry may have misspoke and should have said illegal acts of the Korean government. But he did call the Korean government illegal and illegitimate. Haven't been able to track down the audio from that. Boy, am I working on it, because that would be a fun one to play right next to poor John Kirby having to try and spin. And as you heard, those reporters weren't done with him yet. You heard them going, oh, let's follow up on that. Whoa. You're not out of the hot seat. All right. Yeah, I'm moving around a little bit, so I'm not always perfectly in front of the microphone. Gotta learn how to work with this new setup. It's gonna take me some time, guys. Bear with me. When I first started, I was using a headset. It moved with me. What can I say? And for those of you who are wondering where I got the audio of the Department of State press conference, there's a place called DVIDS. DVIDS. Google it. It'll show right up. And as it's government run, there is no copyright issue with me using it. So before anybody pounces, take a chill. Where I get a lot of audio. Not the only place, mind you. Not the only place, mind you. Alright. I had to laugh. Russia is offering to send over monitors for U.S. elections. Really? Last I checked, there's only one name or maybe two on the Russian ballot? And they want to monitor our elections? Yeah. I don't think so. Now, moving on. We always hear the Iranian rhetoric. America's the great Satan. Be wary of Americans. The Iranian government's always taking hostages, and now they're demanding ransom. Yeah, Obama, you started the ransom thing. Don't deny it. That's my venture into U.S. politics for the day. I'm sorry, we paid ransom. However you want to spin it. Alright, I found a couple very interesting Iran stories. Mr. Frog, thought you were out of town. Told to stay there. Come on, Mr. Frog. Host Kitty's gonna chase him away. Western insurers cautiously rebuild business ties with Iran. Let me grab a quick drink here, folks. I'm sorry. Shut out of international financial markets for years, Iran is still trying to reap the benefits of last year's nuclear deal with world powers. Despite the removal of international banking restrictions in January, Tehran has secured ties with only a limited number of smaller banks in the U.S. as sanctions remain in force. By contrast, Iran is in more active talks with insurers to provide cover in a market valued at $9 billion overall last year, and potentially double that in the next decade. Western companies needed insurance in order to resume business ties with Iran. Shipping and trade credit insurance with removal of risk for non-payment of goods are the first types of insurance being offered. There's generally a lower degree of fear and apprehension and that is because you'd not had the big fines on insurers that the banks have faced, said leading London sanctions lawyer Nigel Kushner. We're going to see greater and quicker movement there than on the banking side, at least in London and the UK. And yes, this is a UK article. Said Kushner, who's also director of the British-Iranian Chamber of Commerce. As Iran has aimed to ramp up oil exports, securing marine insurance has become crucial. Top-tier Western ship insurers have started offering insurance in recent months. Iran's Deputy Oil Minister Amir Hossein Zamania has said European insurers now have no problem issuing Iranian oil tankers, according to the Oil Ministry's news agency, Shana. Production and indemnity clubs, marine insurers owned by shipping firms, have started to provide cover for Iran's shipping fleet, including its oil tankers. Jonathan Andrews, director and head of Eastern Underwriting with British Steamship Mutual, said it was insuring ships for Iranian tanker operator NITC and also for Iranian cargo ship operator IRISL. We have a long history of insuring Iranian ship owners. We're happy to be insuring our former members again. Basically, the short version of this is, folks, we turned back on the spigot. Others, such as UK Standard Club, said they were covering vessels trading to and from Iran, but didn't say whether this was related to Iranian shipping firms. Ship insurers say there are still constraints on payment given a freeze on using the U.S. financial system. Because many banks and financial institutions are reluctant to process the payments. And that's now the main concern for insurers. Solutions are being found, but it's a difficult process and likely to remain so for the foreseeable future. For those of you who aren't aware of how this works, U.S. banks are forbidden to do business with Iran under domestic sanctions still in force. European banks also face problems because since transactions in Iranian dollars cannot be processed through the U.S. financial system. Banks remain nervous after some heavy U.S. penalties, including a $9 billion fine on France's BNP Paribas in 2014 for largely violating U.S. financial sanctions. Despite this, European export credit agencies are guaranteeing trade finance for Western companies doing business with Iran. I'd say they're splitting hairs, folks. I really would. About a dozen transactions have been proved so far, according to Germany's state-run credit group Hermes. The demand is there from the exporter side, but they need a lot of information. There is a continuous and rising flow of applications for export credit guarantees. Italian export credit agency SACE has also undertaken its first small transactions with Iran. Basically, what Obama did, he opened up the spigot. All right, 2 more Iranian stories to round out the day. In Tehran, actually only one more, and then I've got another story. In Tehran, the ritual is becoming familiar as the Death to America chants at Friday pairs. In the yearly rush to enter a lottery for the chance to emigrate to the United States. Oh yeah, there's a lottery in Iran to immigrate. Milad Naziri, a spiky-haired 29-year-old worker at a sleepy florist in downtown Tehran, said, "I want to experience a new life in the U.S. Why not? Death to America? I don't care. The U.S. is the most powerful country, so why shouldn't I take my chance in the lottery?" This month, the State Department opened a 5-week window for visa applications from citizens of countries that historically have low rates of immigration to the U.S. The annual diversity visa lottery selects 50,000 winners who, along with their spouses and children under 21, can obtain green cards and become permanent U.S. residents. Note, I didn't say citizen. Green card holders, permanent U.S. residents. There is a difference, folks. There is a difference. Those numbers include nearly 500,000 Iranians and 432,000 spouses and children, among the most of any country, though a slight decrease from 2014. About 5,000 Iranians were selected for visas. Only Cameroon and Liberia had more winners. Entries from Iran have risen sharply from 150,000 in 2007. So, I mean, come on, 500, yeah, that's a sharp rise. Standing under a printing machine, wiping his greasy hands, Zayam, 45, said he had missed previous lotteries but planned to apply before this year's November 7th deadline. Winners are granted visas starting in 2018. As a young man, Zaim spent 2 years as an unskilled laborer in Japan, where he saved enough money to buy a small apartment. When he was deported to Iran, his fortunes faltered. I see no future here for my 3 children, he said. Zahid Muhammad, an air conditioning repairman, entered the lottery unsuccessfully the past 2 years. While he said he was satisfied in Iran economically, he found the prospect of life in the United States thrilling for his wife and his 10-year-old son. I can earn enough here, he said, but I don't have any leisure time. I want to work and relax too. Here the only option is to drive north for a holiday and rent a vacation home on the Caspian Sea for a few days. There is no fun in Tehran. Such comments, of course, do not please hardliners who oppose any warming of relations with the West. They have tried to undermine the 2014 nuclear deal that President Hassan Rouhani, a relative moderate, struck with the United States and other world powers, arguing it has not brought economic relief. The arch-conservatives who have characterized Iranians with dual citizenship in the West as security threats and cheered this week when 2 Iranian Americans were sentenced to 10-year prison terms on vague charges of spying for the U.S. because Iran does not recognize dual citizenship, people. They don't care what other passport you hold. If you're an Iranian citizen, you're an Iranian citizen. The State Department said the lottery helps broaden the U.S. immigrant pool. Guidelines discourage entrants from hiring consultants to fill out the application, which is free to submit. But in Tehran internet cafes and many shopping malls, they tout their services as preparing applications and submitting them through the State Department's online system. Some of our clients had been winners of the green card, read a sign outside a downtown cafe. Ali, a clerk, and about 10 people visited every day, paying the equivalent of about $10 for help submitting their lottery entry. We help them because they don't have good command of English or high-speed internet connection, said Ali, who did not give his last name for fear of running afoul of authorities. Can't say I blame him. Can't say I blame him. The youth realized that in 10 years, what our economic situation will be, said Ali's father, owner of the cafe, which also helped customers apply for European Union visas. 13 years ago, this mirage was sold to us. So why should our young people believe President Rouhani's promises of improvement and economic growth? All right. I've got one last story for you. Yep, just one more. What do you do after you finish running the United Nations? What do? You retire? Maybe. Some people might. United Nations Secretary General Ban Ki-moon sits at his desk as he poses for a portrait in his office. United Nations Secretary General Ban Ki-moon said on Friday he will return to South Korea in January after heading the world body for a decade to consider what role he can play in the future of his country, amid a push for him to run for president. I understand there are naturally some expectations from many people in Korea that I should make myself available for a better future of Korea. I'm conscious of that. Ban, 72, who stepped down at the end of 2016, said it was the first time he'd spoken publicly about his future beyond the United Nations. The UN General Assembly last week appointed Ban's successor, former Portuguese Prime Minister Antonio Gutierrez, who will start on January 1st. Ban is the only potential candidate for South Korea's presidential election in December 2017, with consistently more than 20% support in the opinion polls. Ban served 2 5-year terms as UN chief and plans to return to South Korea in mid-January. Then after that, I have to discuss this with some of my friends, my senior people, who can give me good advice, what kind of role I can play for the future of Korea. If he runs, Ban is expected to join the Conservative Party of current President Park Geun-hye. He would join a small field of potential candidates who have struggled to gain much public support. My options are still open. Just let me ponder seriously what would be the best way for me to use my time, my experience as Secretary General. He said for now he's still focused on his job at UN Secretary General. Not the right time for me to speculate on anything. Throughout Ban's second term, we've had the war in Syria, and he deeply regrets that the war in Syria has not been resolved. I'm ready to receive all this blame and criticism, but sometimes, Secretary General is blamed for what is beyond my control. A top issue for Ban, a former South Korean foreign minister, has been how to deal with increasing tensions on the Korean peninsula. Never in the past have we seen such heightened tensions on the Korean peninsula. That is the source of my great concern and worry. Since North Korea's 5th and largest nuclear test in September, the United States and China, a close ally of Pyongyang, have been negotiating a new draft Security Council resolution. In March, the 15-member council imposed tough new sanctions. Sometimes the Security Council does take an unnecessarily long time in expressing their position, and that kind of sense of lack of unity gives some excuse for member states like North Korea not to abide by this resolution. Ban said he had met with senior North Korean authorities in New York and elsewhere on the margins of international conferences and advised them to address the issue. Through a harmonious and reconciliatory way, he'd made attempts to visit Pyongyang, but they were canceled by North Korea. Ban is a generally well-regarded in South Korea, often called the president of the world. In the media, he's seen as a role model by students and parents. Stores carry a range of books on Ban's life and UN tenure, as well as self-help volumes on how to become a world figure and even how to speak like him. Upon his return to South Korea, Ban said he planned to tell the people of South Korea about what he has achieved in the past decade, such as a UN agenda for the world's 2030 sustainable development and global agreement to combat climate change. I'm determined to sprint to the finish line as Secretary General, Ban said. It's important to me to finish my job. I'm Secretary General until the very last moment of my mandate. On that note, folks, you know what's coming.